Shabbat Shalom. I'm Robert Barr. And if you checked from last week, if you remember last week, I mentioned that I would be having a guest tonight, Marcy Miller, the executive director of the Hillel at Miami University. Unfortunately, Marcy is very sick. She should be home right now. I'm looking at you, Marcy, through the camera. I'm expecting you to be home, having some chicken soup and taking your medicine. And we're going to reschedule when Marcy's feeling better. She really was not up to it, and I didn't want her to get sicker, or me to get sick, or any of you to get sick. So be well, Marcy. Feel better. Look forward to rescheduling on a Friday night when you can be here. But those of you who are joining us right now, I'm delighted you're here at 6 o'clock. Some of you are watching live, some watching in the archives later on. So I'm going to read the service, and we'll have a conversation, I promise. So put away the pencil and the paper. Put away the notebook and the keys. Set aside the shovel and the hammer. Rest. For this interval, no buying, no selling, no working, no laboring, no straining. Not living in the past, not planning for the future. This is a time for celebration, for joy, for mirth. We are here alive to rejoice in another Sabbath, another opportunity to be together, grateful for our family and our friends. With no distractions, we touch and are touched, the great gift of the Sabbath. So I said, I'm Robert Barr. I'm hopefully you know who I am if you're joining us here at ourjewishcommunity.org. Let me give a little context for those who are new. Ourjewishcommunity.org is an initiative of Congregation Beth. Congregation Beth is about to celebrate its 36th year here in Greater Cincinnati, the founding rabbi at Congregation Beth. And it's a congregation which for these past 36 years have been creating a bold Jewish expression. We wanted to give voice to a Judaism that speaks to who we are, what we believe, to bring science and modernity into the sanctuary, not keeping it outside. We should be able to say in the sanctuary what we say in the foyer. We shouldn't have a dissonance between our beliefs and what we do when we're at services. And too often, for a lot of folks, the religious dynamic at this point is dissonance. They say one thing at services, but another thing on the street. We need to bring them together. We need to bring the best ideas of today into our sanctuary. And that's what we've been doing at Congregation Beth. About 9 years ago, I had the idea that we needed to share what we're doing with adult children who moved out of Cincinnati. They wanted to remain connected. And there are lots of folks who've seen what we're doing. They've come maybe for a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, a wedding, and they went, what you're doing is unique. And we recognized that technology would allow us to share what we were doing with people beyond Greater Cincinnati. So with that, we built ourjewishcommunity.org and have continued to grow it over the last 8 years. So I'm delighted you're here. Some of you are watching live right now at 6 o'clock and are chatting. Other of you will watch this in our archives. And whenever you do, you're still part of this community, a worldwide community of individuals who are looking for a strong, bold voice of Judaism. So we're going to continue with our candle lighting. I'm going to move a book for a second. On this Shabbat, we create our moment in time. We pause to reflect upon our yesterdays and tomorrows, to renew our ties with family and friends, to restore our energies, to refresh our spirits. As the sun descends and shadows lengthen, the distraction of the day gives way to the stillness of night. It's time now for us to see not with our eyes, but with our hearts and our minds. As the Sabbath gives way to evening, it's time for us to welcome the Shabbat. The candles stand before us, waiting to be lit. We recall our ancestors as we too seek to dispel the darkness, to banish the cold, to bring glowing softness, warmth, and safety into our homes. May the dancing flames of these candles kindle warmth within our hearts, wisdom in our mind, passion in our souls. Baruch or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Oops, the match broke on me. So I'm here by myself, and the match broke right away. Okay, what does that tell you? Let me try again. Baruch or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. Okay, not too bad. Took me 2 matches. So, as I said, Marcy was going to be here. I hope she's going to start feeling better soon. And we're going to reschedule with Marcy in the near future when she's up to it and when we can get it into our schedule. And what I thought I would do tonight is talk about what I'm actually going to be talking about at our bricks and mortar services that take place in our library at Congregation Beth here in Loveland, Ohio. And the topic tonight for the bricks and mortar service is something that I want to share with you. It is a response to the Ark Encounter. So let me just give a little context for this. Those of you who live in Greater Cincinnati, maybe some of you who live outside of Greater Cincinnati or worldwide may have heard that there is a creation museum in northern Kentucky, a museum that's premised on the notion that the earth is 6,000 years old. Let me back that up, actually. That the universe that is, 14.5 billion light years big, is really only 6,000 years old. The creation of the earth took place in the 6 days of creation, 24-hour days, and that everything we see on this earth was created as it is and as it was, and that dinosaurs and human beings actually coexisted. This is the Creation Museum. You can read about it if you type it in. The people who brought the world the Creation Museum are now creating what is called Ark Encounter. They are building a park, if you will, with an ark, which they say, and I'll read you right from their website, it's going to be easier to do that, which they say reflects accurately and historically what is written in the Bible about the flood. Let me just read you the beginning of the flood story. We're not going to get to dissect it all apart, but we'll read a couple little pieces. It says in chapter 6, verse 11 of the book of Genesis, "The earth became corrupt before God. The earth was filled with lawlessness. When God saw how corrupt the earth was, for all flesh had corrupted its ways on earth, God said to Noah, I've decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with lawlessness because of them. I am about to destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, and make it an ark with compartments, and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall make it. The ark of the length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 500 cubits, its heights 30 cubits. Make an opening for daylight in the ark, and terminate it within a cubit of the top. Put the entrance of the ark in its side. Make it with bottom, second, and third decks." Now I'm going to ask Sam, who's running the controls right now, to put up an image of the ark that is being built. It's sitting right, you can see it right there. So the folks who brought us the Creation Museum are now building, over my shoulder, an ark. They're claiming that it is reflective of the information here, a cubit being about 3 feet. No one knows exactly the size. These things are arbitrary. And understand that the folks who are building it believe that in that ark, was placed all the animals that we know that exist, 2 of every kind. Well, it actually says, let me just read you something here. Chapter 7, verse 2 says, "Of every clean animal you should take 7 pairs, male and their mates. Of every animal that is not clean, 2, a male and his pair." So clean animals, cows, there were 14. Sheep, there were 14. Because those are clean animals, meaning kosher, they were edible. So the fact is, the folks who are building the Ark Encounter believe that on this ark, everything that existed, all the animals that existed then, are the animals that exist today. Let me tell you, so they're building this, and they're working on it. It's going to open on July 7th. On July 7th. And they did that because they're very good marketers, I have to say. Chapter 7 of Genesis, verse 7 says, "Noah with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives went into the ark because of the waters of the flood." So they're opening it on 7/7 to refer to the fact that that's when Noah and his wife and his sons' wives went into the ark. This is quite a big undertaking. They believe, let me read you what they say, "The Ark Encounter is a sister attraction of the popular Creation Museum. It is a Christian evangelical outreach intended to bring the Ark of Noah's day to life." They're very clear about what this is. This is a Christian missionary technique. They go on further to say, let me read this to you. It says, This is right from the Ark Encounter website. It says there, the Ark Encounter, this is from the website. The Ark will equip visitors to understand the reality of the events that are recorded in the book of Genesis. Understand that the people who are writing this don't believe this is metaphor, don't believe this is myth, don't believe this is allegory, which it is. And we can talk about why we know that, because there are other creation stories that we have found that are almost identical. The myth of Gilgamesh, the story of Gilgamesh, which many people have read, has very similar elements to the Noah story. We know that there are other myths of the Near East that have very similar understandings as Noah, or similar elements as Noah, and so it becomes scholars can begin to do research and understand it. The other thing we know is when you read the story of Noah, there are contradictions internal. Is it two of every kind, or is it seven pair of the clean? It's like different people had their hand in it, and when we do biblical textual analysis, we actually discover that different authors did. But for the people who are building this ark, they believe it's absolutely true. Let me keep on going. The global flood did happen as an act of God's judgment. Would you show the global flood? So Sam's going to put up what we mean by the global flood. This image that he's putting up, you got to look at it very carefully. In fact, when I asked Sam to grab me a copy of it, he couldn't quite figure out what he was looking at. What it is there's a boat. Now the Ark boat is smaller than the Titanic, just to give you some frame of reference. And it's sitting on what looks like a ledge. Well, that ledge is water. What that image is supposed to be, I've gone to the Creation Museum. That image is supposed to say, isn't it silly to think that it was only a partial flood? A partial flood would mean the water just simply stopped somewhere. So they believe literally in a worldwide flood that enveloped the highest peaks, including Everest, on Earth. Because that would be the only way for everything to be destroyed, save the fish and all the things that lived in the water, which raises another issue. Weren't they corrupt as well? But that's a whole conversation that I'm not going to get into right now. It's a whole funny midrash that one could do. But they believed in a worldwide flood. And when you read their documents, it's this worldwide flood that they say caused the continents to move, the tectonic shift that we know. It's the reason that fossils appear in different places rather than evolution. All of it is attributable to the flood. So they said the flood happened just like that. Totally, see, it was covering that mountain. Look real close, you can see it's covering a mountain in that picture. And it covered the entire earth. Everything was killed other than those animals that they put on the ark. Now you're going, if dinosaurs lived with where were the dinosaurs? Their claim is they put babies on the ark. That was how they talked about put little animals on the ark. Okay, so let's keep on going. So it says the flood did really happen as an act of God's judgment. Noah and his family really did build a ship of the same size as the dimension is written in Genesis 6. All of the animals brought by God to Noah did fit inside the ark. So those of you saying, oh, the ark's too small, see, they're going to prove it. I don't know what that means. I would hate to be the one having to clean the ark every day if all those animals are there. Noah and his family could care for all the animals while they were on the ark. The flood of Noah's day was a worldwide catastrophic event that resulted in large-scale human and animal death. Large-scale, it was genocide. Everyone died except Noah and his family. It was genocide, and all the animals, which questions, how are animals corrupt? How are animals corrupt? Leaving behind many of the plants and animal fossil landform we see today, when you go to the Creation Museum, they use the flood to explain everything we see. God saved Noah and his family and the animals in the ark just as he had promised. Now, when you read the story very carefully, it talks about 40 days it not only was rain, but the fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the sky were unstopped, and the rain from the earth, from the sky, was held back. So in their image, the sky, sort of beyond the sky that we can see, or they could see, there was like water up there. That's where all this water came from. There was water below. And it was supposedly rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But it says, actually, when you read it, that there was actually water on the earth even longer than that. And which also begins, as you read the text very carefully, you begin to see internal contradictions. So let me tell you what they also said, and this was from their blog of January 13th. They said, at Answers in Genesis, that's the organization that really is behind the Creation Museum and behind the Ark Encounter. They said, we truly believe that the Ark Encounter will be one of the greatest Christian outreaches of our day, welcoming at least 1.4 million guests in the first year, and unashamedly delivering a powerful presentation of the gospel. This is meant as a tool to teach people about the flood. It is meant as a tool to indoctrinate or to support those who are already believers, to help them try to convince other people. It is meant to be an outreach tactic, an evangelical reach, to convince or convert people who aren't. And they say that unabashedly. Now, it raised some issues. Some of you may have read about how they actually went to the state of Kentucky to see if they could get some tax abatements, which really did raise a whole issue of church and state and the entanglement. And that has continued, and there have been many fights about that. They also, and I've seen this because I've been at the Creation Museum, you have to sign a statement of belief to work at these places. So they are discriminatory. If you do not believe in the 6 days of creation and the 6,000-year-old earth, they won't include you. They don't include same-sex couples. They don't include those who aren't believers. They say, too, additional future phases for the attraction include a pre-flood walled city, the Tower of Babel, right? Because they have to, everything in the Bible for them is true. It's not myth, it's not metaphor, it's not allegory, it's truth. A first-century village, a journey in history from Abraham to the parting of the Red Sea, a walk through an aviary, an expanded petting zoo, and other attractions will uphold the truth of God's Word. That's what they're looking to do. So it's a fascinating journey. And it's fascinating, and I say fascinating in the sense that for me it speaks to the understanding that there are people for whom this book, and this is the Hebrew Scriptures, but they believe the Bible. They include what they would call the New Testament as literal historical truth. And it's a problem because it raises lots of issues. This is not a historical document. It was never meant to be a textbook. This was a political document. It was a mythic document. It had a lot of different elements. Now, what's interesting is there are a group of free thinkers. So Sam, if you'll throw up this other slide that we have. So there's a group that decided that they wanted to protest it. And so this is the Tri-State Free Thinkers, and they have a billboard that they're posting or putting up, and it's called the Genesis and Inset Park, celebrating 2,000 years of myth. They thought they needed to respond to it. This actually billboard not only has gotten press in Cincinnati, it's actually gotten press around, the United States. And then the Ark Encounter people then put up their own billboard, which shows the Ark and says, "Thank God you can't sink this ship." There's a debate going on in America. Primarily, it seems to be more an American phenomenon than anything else, about the Bible as being literally true, even these early passages, this anti-evolution movement that's very, very strong, and their attempt to demonstrate that through the Creation Museum, and now this new manifestation, the Ark Encounter, which is going to be another way to draw people into the conversation. It's going to be another way to do outreach. They are getting a lot of publicity, and they're trying to use it to build their message, and they're really not ashamed to say it. I think too often some of us who come from a more scientific-oriented point of view, who approach the Bible from an analytic and scholarly perspective, don't realize the depth of feeling, the depth of passion, that the people who believe it to be fully true are involved in. Nor do we appreciate, or nor do we understand the kind of money that is being spent. When you look at that ark, this is not a minor project. This is a major attraction. And I have to say, having walked through the Creation Museum, they do a very good job. I think a lot of folks thought that this stuff was going to be second rate, second class. It's first class. They have first class productions. They had an amazing gift shop that was really stunning. I was stunning, meaning stunned by how much material, books, everything from this creationist perspective. I have no doubt that they will have an incredible gift shop with little animals on little arks, and they will have books that describe geology and the movement of the continents based upon the flood. They have done a very good job taking this text and then presenting it as if it is scholastically true, using some version of I hate to hesitate to use the word science, but they're going to put it into a scientific framework to make it look as if it's true and it's real. So this is what's happening in Greater Cincinnati. It's not too far from where I'm sitting right now. Some of you may know that the science guy, Bill Nye, actually debated Ken Ham. Ken Ham is the personality, the person behind all this. A couple years ago, they debated evolution. Ken Ham's behind this, and it keeps on going. It's not over. And I would just I think it's important that those of us who take a scientific, evidence-based approach to religion understand what's going on. Understand, too, that some of these people are trying to change education in America. They're trying to minimize evolution. And this is the next step in minimizing evolution, is then to inject into it some version of what they would call geology, by talking about the flood and how water pushed things around, and water, a great flood that covered the earth, is the reason that fossils exist where they do. It is anti-scientific, it is anti-evidence-based, and it is all an attempt to maintain the veracity of the Bible. The reason they keep these stories is not just because they want the stories to be real, but if these stories aren't real, they're worried that people will reject other pieces. What they're looking to keep is the authority of the Bible, particularly the moral authority of it, because they quote the text to marginalize same-sex couples. They use the text to marginalize people they disagree with, or to promote value sets that they say are embedded here. I have to say, you can pick and choose. You can pretty much find almost any value set. This text supports slavery. The text is of it's an Iron Age text. We need to read it that way and understand it that way. But as you can see from this little brief moment that we spent talking about the Ark Encounter, there are people who don't see it as ancient mythology. They see it as real, historical, scientific fact. And frankly, that is worrisome. We need to respond to it. We need to be aware of it, and we need to speak up and be well educated about what the Bible is, what it represents, and how we understand it. So I'm glad we could share this with you. Take a look. You can do a couple Google searches. I'm sure you can find more about it. And as I said, they're very good marketers. They've done a great job promoting it. It opens on 7/7 using the biblical verse, and it's going to be open for 40 days and 40 nights. Pretty cute. Good marketing. But just because they're good at marketing doesn't mean what they're marketing is something that people should buy. We're going to continue with our challah, and it's sliced. What does that mean? It means that we're having services tonight, and if you're in Greater Cincinnati, we're going to do this in a little bit more depth. I actually have more images that I'm going to show tonight at services, images actually from the Creation Museum, how they put the flood into even a wider context. So if you're in Greater Cincinnati, come join us. We continue. As the fingers of the challah intertwine, so do we join hands in our common humanity, sharing the fruits of our labors. We cherish that which has been created through human effort. For it's through the work of our hands, the strength of the human spirit, the vision of our minds, that our dreams are woven into the tapestry of time. We celebrate the accomplishments of yesterday and today, anticipating the possibilities of tomorrow. In the sharing of the challah, strengthen our bond with others who walk upon this earth. Baruch hamal kapeinu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch hazon ha'adam, blessed is the vision of our minds. Baruch lechem ha'aretz, blessed is the bread of the earth. And then if you have some juice or some wine, join with me. We celebrate the fruit of the vine and bounty of nature as we lift the cup. For we're part of nature, which gave us birth and continues to sustain us. Even as we depend upon nature, so do we influence its course. Through the search for understanding, we've gained the knowledge to shape our world. Guided by the best of human wisdom and the compassion of our spirit, we accept the responsibility which rests upon us. May the taste of the wine or juice upon our lips stir within us a reverence for nature and a respect for human endeavor. Bruchim hachayim ba'olam. Blessed is a life within the world. Bruchim hachayim ba'adam. Blessed is a life within each person. L'chaim. Announcements, right? That's what comes after the wine, is the announcements. Okay, next week, April 15th, Reverend Sharon Dittmar will be here. So join me and her together. The following week, April 22nd, our service is going to be at 5 o'clock. April 22nd, 5 o'clock. Why, you ask? Why? The answer is Passover. Passover begins April 22nd, and we have our congregational Seder upstairs at 6 o'clock in our social hall. And can't be in two places at once at the same time, right? And really, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a 5 o'clock service, and then I end with Haya, and then we'll go upstairs and we'll lead our congregational Seder. So join us at 5 o'clock on April 22nd. And then, join us on April 23rd at 5 o'clock. We're going to do our online Seder. We're going to do it as an educational component. We're going to read like we've done in the past. We'll have our symbolic foods, but we're going to pause a little bit more and talk a little bit more. One of the things that I've enjoyed doing over the years is teaching about Passover. I really enjoy that experience. I think Passover is a fascinating holiday. It reflects some of the evolution and elements that help us to better understand what our ancestors were doing and creating. So we're going to bring that into our online Seder. It's going to be a more interactive. If you're online, we're going to have someone here reading the questions, and they'll be yelling them out if you have questions. So we make sure we answer them. And that'll be at 5 o'clock, Saturday, April 23rd. And that should last about 45 minutes. Number 4, actually. Go to our Facebook page, or go to our OJC.org, our JewishCommunity.org, and you can go and purchase Haggadahs. Haggadot is the Hebrew. Beth Adam, Congregation Beth Adam, which spawned our JewishCommunity.org, created a Haggadah many years ago. We've actually had multiple iterations of it, and our Haggadah really captures the evolution of the holiday. It deals with it both from a historical perspective, a mythic perspective, and it deals with the values of Passover as well, some of the issues of slavery and darkness and oppression. So it's all woven in. It's primarily an English Haggadah, and it's readable, which means that you can begin it and you can end it and still have a really lovely evening. You don't sit there for 4 or 5 hours feeling like you can't get up. So you can purchase those. So you go to Cincinnati, or go to ourjewishcommunity.org, look at the side tabs, go to shop, and it'll take you to the website. Also, remember, if you're shopping, always go to ourjewishcommunity.org, go to the Amazon, click through Amazon. We get credit. We get finance, but we don't know what you're buying. Don't worry. We're not snooping. We're not dealing with all the issues that Apple and we're not looking at what you're doing. It's just a matter of it gives us a sense of we get some extra donations. So it's a way that you can help support us very easily with things that you're already doing. So follow us on Facebook. Go there. We're always posting new things. Check out my podcasts if you haven't. Go on and look at we just posted on ourjewishcommunity.org an interview with Daniel Hope. Daniel Hope spoke at Congregation Beth Adam. He's part of our Sunday morning speaker series. Virtuoso violinist, one of the, has probably more of 25 or 30 albums out at this point. Incredible violinist. Go type in Daniel Hope and type in Spheres. That happens to be a piece that I just really adore. And Daniel Hope it's a short interview that I did with him following his conversation here. Actually, we had to do it immediately after. In fact, you'll hear music in the background because our studio isn't soundproofed and religious school is going on, and you can hear music drifting in for the classroom next door. Wonderful man, very interesting. Check him out. So we have a lot going on. ourjewishcommunity.org, our Facebook page, podcasts. You can listen to those as well. Join us for all the services that I just mentioned. And I hope to see you and hear from you soon. Remember, you can always write to me at rabbi@ourjewishcommunity.org. And we close with our final words. May we know blessings who are near, and may we know blessings who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.